spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition.
You just heard, ladies and gentlemen, that great retro intro of Jim McKay in Wide World of Sports. Tonight, the Wide World of Knap on Sunday night primetime on KOFO, the Jacobsen Group leading off your entertainment package for this evening on the blowtorch of the East Central Plains of Kansas with that great country format. Your official home and away voice of the Kansas City Royals, the Ottawa Braves, the Ottawa Cyclones, the Baldwin Bulldogs, state champs, the Wellsville Eagles, on 1220, 103.7 FM, and always listen live on KOFO, as well as the podcast. We've got a great show for you tonight. 48 hours ago, my studio engineer, Sean Torres, it was 86 degrees. We are going to be down to about 14 to 12 degrees Fahrenheit with wind chills shortly, with snow heading into vicissitudes of March. What better to cozy up tonight and listen to your sports review here with Coach Patrick J. Knap Jr., the Georgetown legend. These months of the year, he, in his coaching career, was used to rolling through and winning Big East, women's, college, hoops, basketball tournaments, as well as deep runs into the NCAA. The first nationally televised women's hoops game, Coach Knap versus Gino Ariema from UConn, the beginning of a classic buildup for women in sports. He did that from his vaunted perch at Georgetown University. Senators, congressmen and women, presidents, all being inspired by John Thompson, Pat Knapp, and what they were doing. And all of a sudden, Title IX came running around the corner. And Mr. Basketball himself, John Stewart, is with us tonight. The great John Stewart from Omaha. He might be up there with Lenardi for Bracketology, guys. And I want to welcome in all of our folks listening tonight from Franklin and Anderson and Lynn and Miami and Osage and Johnson and Douglas counties as this signal here in Ottawa caroms to Wellsville and Williamsburg and Princeton and Paola and Osage and Osawatomie and Gardner and Garnett, up to the capital of Topeka where the legislature meets again tomorrow, up to Rock Chalk Jayhawk country, 15 minutes north here, Fog Allen Fieldhouse. They're listening to us in Baldwin City, home of the now 4A state champion boys basketball Baldwin City Bulldogs, also home of Mike McCarthy, coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's on the board of directors at Baker University. And also the great folks at Wellsville listening in tonight. And of course, guys, it is going to be fun tonight because we've got a whole half hour sponsored by Jim and Cindy Jandron. Go to liferunners.org. Life Runners, get your t-shirt like the lovely and gracious Deborah. Run and walk for life, building a culture of life. From womb to tomb, helping expectant mothers and their babies both before and after birth as they run across, literally across CROSS, that Christian cross, north to south, west to east, across America, often culminating their pro-life run at Benedictine College in Atchison, just down the road here. And we thank Jim and Cindy also for their auspices at Midwest Renewable Energy, LLC, ethanol, renewable fuels, energy for a strong America, is lean, is clean, and it's green. Here we are, John Jacobsen here, Sean Torres in studio, Coach Knap, our bon vivant John Stewart. Guys, let's talk basketball. Welcome, John Stewart. You're an old aficionado from an award-winning radio show up north with Coach Knap. Welcome back to the as we start to reassemble the gang, Johnny Stew.
Thank you, John, for having me back on. And, this is a really exciting time of the year. One of Coach's old buddies just secured a bid this morning and has now taken 5 different teams to the NCAA tournament.
Who would that be, John Stewart? Who is this coach of whom you speak?
Franny McCaffrey.
Who was my Iowa Hawkeye coach for many, many years. Coach Knap, weigh in. That's quite a nice transition from Fran, his first year at Penn, after a long career at Iowa. You've known Fran McCaffrey for a long time. I still think that my girl, Caitlin Clark, should dump that boyfriend of hers who happens to be his son. But that's a segue. Coach, tell us about Fran McCaffrey.
Yeah, White Magic, as he got the name back in Philadelphia during his playing days, soured a bit in Des Moines and Iowa City, but found new life, his old home, Philly, University of Pennsylvania, and they really had to charge up the standings in the last couple of weeks, even to make the Ivy League tournament, which is only 4 teams. And Yale, who I believe was like 26-5 or 24-5, had an outstanding team. So big upset. Franny gets the Ivy championship. Now they're all over the lot when you look at where he might be placed in the NCAA tournament. We'll have to wait and see. Yale was supposedly a 12th seed and going to play St. John's in the East, according to Jerry Palm. Joe Lenardi had them somewhere else, but Penn didn't have as high as an RPI or a net ranking as Yale, so we have to see where they're going to go.
Fascinating stuff. It's great to see these guys in their 60s still getting in the tournament. John Stewart, you followed Fran closely. Coach knew him well. Of course, Coach is a Philly guy, but you watched Fran for many years at Iowa. And, we've also had some Iowa coaches matriculate down to Kansas here. Bill Snyder, one of them, John Stewart, as we are, this signal that goes right in to the Kansas City Metro. We are the Royals official station, and folks in Olathe, which will be the future headquarters of the new KC Chiefs headquarters and training facility. The actual Coliseum will be up there in the Legends shopping area. But John Stewart, a quick take on Fran, and then all my Kansas buddies have got questions for you two about this Jayhawk team. Man, a brutally ugly loss a couple days ago by 22 points. What's going on? Before we go there, though, John, a quick take on Fran. You watched him coach many years at Iowa. How did he do it this year? In a portal NIL era first year, he gets an NCAA bid.
Yeah, I watched parts, at least, of a few Penn games throughout the year and stuff, and it seemed like they had a pretty consistent team, which that is the way most of Fran's teams were at Iowa through the years. They didn't have very many games where they were always pretty good on offense, upper 70s, lower 80s scoring most of the time, but they had some games that go above that, but they had very few games that somebody would hold them down to the lower 60s or something like that. They were always consistent with scoring, but unfortunately a lot of times also consistent with not playing defense real well. So
yes,
you kind of had both sides of it, and just to kind of keep you up with him too. I looked up 2 brackets while we've been talking, and the 2 that I have seen have them as a 14 seed against the 3 seed Illinois.
Here we are with John Stewart and Coach Knap on this beautiful Sunday evening. Beautiful in that sense that March, you never know what you're going to get. My students who I teach at Outer U, about 15% are international students. I would say those that are not international, 70% are from Sun Belt states. They're recruited athletes from California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Texas, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. And man, they see snow again tonight after being out the ball field yesterday with beautiful summer sunny high 70s. Well, at least it's not a Dorothy tornado this evening here. It's just way too cold for that. Coach, let's talk about this Kansas Jayhawk team. We got fans that are very devoted that are scratching their head. They had a nice win against TCU and then blown out in the semis there, I believe, in the Big 12 tournament. And what is the deal with the glass court? Coach, get us up to speed on this Big 12 tournament. Handicap KU, and I'll get Johnny's take on this. But we don't want to be one and done or two and done. But, man, this is an up and down KU Jayhawk team.
Yeah, well, right now, Kansas on one bracket is a 4 seed, and they are playing the 13th seed 13th seed in High Point in North Carolina. That's Jerry Palm. That's Jerry Palm. Kansas also is projected as a 5 seed playing Akron in the South. So we're going to have to wait and see where the brackets go. But let me tell you, John, as you know, I've been watching Kansas all year.
You have, and you know this team really well. You've brought some really insightful comments all season long to get us up to speed here, Coach. Want your take on this head-scratching week we just went through, kind of like some earlier weeks this season, up and down.
Yeah, Kansas doesn't deserve to be a 4th seed. I believe that both Palm and Joe Lenardi will have them as a 5 because they were trending down at the end of the year. But they were a very good defensive team. Their 10-Palm rating for defensive efficiency, 10th in the country. That's very strong. Their offensive efficiency number is 57.
Wow.
And that's not very good
No.
for a team that you want to project in the Elite 8 or Sweet 16. The difference in their offensive efficiency and their defensive efficiency, John, is very simple. On offense, they didn't have Darren Peterson all year. He was in and out.
Yeah.
His role was in and out.
Yeah.
It changed. Sometimes he was a hot hand. Sometimes he was just hanging around.
Yep.
But on defense, Bill Self, with him or without him, could build a cohesive unit defensively.
Yeah.
Plus, he had 2 bigs in the back that were blocking shots. So I think they're a 5 seed, and they may exit the second day of the tournament.
Is Bill Self getting a little long in the tooth? Is maybe like Fran McCaffrey? Is he kind of at a tail end here? You wonder, has he hit his ceiling here? The crowd is a great crowd, and when they took on and hosted number 2 Iowa State that evening and just destroyed Iowa State at the Fog. I was there in person by over 20 points. They look like nobody in the country could have beaten them that night. And then they lose by 22 the other night to Houston. I just can't figure this team out, Coach.
Well, I don't think Self is done by any stretch. I believe he was handcuffed by a superstar freshman who had one eye on the NBA, the other eye on his health, and third eye, I don't know where it was. Let's give the kid a break.
Yeah.
We don't know the whole story,
Right.
but I think that handicap Kansas and Bill Self and their offensive efficiency.
That's a great take. John Stewart, you've watched the Big 12 closely, and you know a lot of those teams really well, and you actually track the Big East as well as the Old Mo Valley because you followed the Creighton teams, the Iowa teams, Iowa State, who's a big rival of Kansas, as well as Kansas State. And you probably know more about Bill Snyder and his playbook than even the Kansas fans who watched him coach for a quarter century here did. Johnny, your take on KU and the Jayhawks, and whither the Jayhawks in the big dance here coming up?
Well, I have to echo a lot of what Coach said. They've just been very up and down, but the thing, even with their defensive efficiency, that surprises me is against some teams. Actually, it's been 2 different times against Houston. The defense just goes to sleep, and they end up giving up 85 or 90 points.
Yeah.
And you're not going to survive very long in the NCAA tournament doing that. And I just happened to have Lenardi's bracket up in front of me, and he did drop Kansas into a 5 against Akron.
I happen to have that in front of me too, and I bet Coach has got access to that as well.
And the team on the other side got dropped from a 3 to a 4 and is Nebraska. So would that be an interesting second-round game, Kansas, Nebraska, from the old Big 8?
Wow. Yes, indeed, that would be. Well, guys, Joe Brackets, as Coach would call him, it's up on ESPN.com, updated at 1:47 Central Time here. Duke is the top overall seed. Texas is the last team in. Oklahoma is the first team out. Coach, do you want to hone your craft here a little bit and give us a preview of these teams here?
Well, you mentioned the top seeds, Duke in the East, Michigan, Midwest. Florida stays as a 1, even though they did not win the SEC. They're in the South. Arizona clearly favored, in my mind, to beat all of those teams in the West. Duke is hampered a little bit by 2 injuries. Caden Boozer is playing point guard now. He's nowhere near the same defensive talent as the player who left. I think his name is Caleb Foster. They'll get their big man back, Will. They seem to find a way. They're very good. But it's a team that I think is going to sneak in there. And I think they could beat Florida, and that's Houston. If this bracket holds and Houston's in the same region as Florida, I just think Houston's defensive intensity, their switching, their athleticism, their tenacity on the boards, I think they'll beat Florida if that is an Elite 8 game. But when you look at them all, Iowa State can beat Michigan. So that could be another upset in terms of the brackets. Michigan 1, Iowa State a 2. But I'm taking Arizona to go all the way at this point in time.
Here with Coach Pat Knapp. Will be with John Stewart again here in just a second. Coach, I'm looking at the conference strength. It looks like teams in the bracket, SEC with 10, Big 10 with 9, ACC with 8, as is the Big 12 with 8. The Beast, only 3, West Coast 3, Mid-American 2, West Coast 2. I'm sorry, West Coast 3, West Coast 2, Mid-American 2. What say you? Are those good?
Well, I think the Mid-American lucked out when Miami so the winner, Akron, goes. So that would have been a one-bid league if Miami had run the table. The Atlantic 10, St. Louis faltered at the end, both regular season and in the tournament. They lost in the semifinals in a hell of a game to Dayton. But my buddy Phil Martelli, his son, Phil Martelli Jr., is the head coach at VCU, and they just won the A-10 championship, so they are going. The Big East deserves 3, and that's it. And I have to tell you, UConn still being a 2 seed, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised, particularly after getting spanked twice by St. John. The other ones, they're always going to get high numbers. SEC, Big Ten. I think the Big Ten is way better than the SEC this year. But the other interesting one is the ACC with 8. Very interesting.
Yeah.
First 4 out.
Yes.
You do have 2 SEC teams that apparently aren't going to make it, Oklahoma and Auburn. And then the next 4 out were those in the Midwest, Indiana, whose team, their season was a disaster this year.
Yeah.
Coach left West Virginia after 1 year, brought his son in. They did not play very well. They did not play up to Big Ten standards at all.
John Stewart, you're familiar with the coaching move from Drake to West Virginia to Indiana. What happened this year, and are you surprised by any of the brackets we're looking here? You've also followed that Iowa State team, a rival of Kansas State KU. They look like they have a number 2 seed. Talk about the bracket from your vantage point, John.
Well, as far as with Iowa State, I guess, doesn't surprise me that they're a 2 seed, but they are a little bit like Kansas in that their defense is usually good all the time, but if the offense goes to sleep in a ball game for some reason, they're not going to do very well because they don't score a lot anyway, and stuff. And one thing I guess that surprises me in the bracket that I'm looking at anyway is it surprises me the way St. John, I believe, won the regular season Big East, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
Yes.
But spanked UConn twice.
Yeah.
And it surprises me a little bit that UConn is still a 2 and St. John's is a 4. And that was a raise from a 5.
Yeah, Coach.
So
Coach. Does that give you pause?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think UConn's a 2 right now.
And you've said that.
I don't know if St. John's would move up to a 2. They should move up to a 3.
Yeah, I thought maybe they might both be on the same line.
So Johnny, there's a real chance.
There you go.
Johnny, there's a real chance in Oklahoma City that second round game could be Kansas versus Nebraska. John, you've watched the erstwhile rivalry in the old Big 8 and Big 12 days before Nebraska moved to the Big 10. John, how good is this Nebraska team? This is a team that has never, in its college basketball history, the Nebraska Cornhuskers have never won an NCAA tournament basketball game in the postseason. If they match up against Kansas in the second round, they will be coming off a bellwether in program history. They will have won their first ever NCAA tournament game. How good is this team coached by Fred Hoiberg? Are they started out as one of the only undefeated teams left after about 20 games. How good is this team? You've seen them play, John.
Well, and you know, they're a very good team, but in many of their games, they go as the 3 goes. And if the 3 doesn't go, they can get squished by anybody. Question for Coach here a little bit on Nebraska too. I think my comment and then Coach's comment. But as I have watched the Big Ten basketball season play out, and Nebraska stayed undefeated for so long, and there were a few people that at that point in time in the way too early bracket had them on the 1 line yet, and whatever. But as the season kept going, they started out either 20-0 or 21-0, and I can't remember which it was.
Right. You're right.
For sure.
Right.
But as there got to be more film that people could study and get to see their trends and how they play and yada, yada, on and on, they're only 6-7 since then.
Fascinating. Yeah. Coach, weigh in on this.
Yeah, no, good call. Very good call. And what Stewart first is their offense. Their defensive efficiency rating nationally is 7. 7. It's really good. But their offensive rating is 55th. And so Johnny has hit on something there. They've been scouted better. More athletic teams have gotten into them, taken away good opportunities. Their offense is what helped drag them into that 6 and 7.
Well, and counting their game on Friday against Purdue, they have had, I think, since they got their first loss in the season, with the way they were scoring and doing things in the early part of the season, I think they have been held under 60 points 3 times in the last either 10 or 11 ball games.
You're listening to John Stewart and
go.
Coach Knap. Guys, the women's bracket, Coach Knap, you're the championship women's coach. Help put the programs on the map nationally. Iowa City, it shows Iowa hosting as a number 2 seed. Also, I'm very interested, the last 4 byes, Big 12 Iowa State is in the last 4 byes, as is USC. The last 4 in, it has Nebraska as one of the last 4 in. You know Coach Gino Arima at UConn very well. They're the number 1 overall seed. Coach, handicap this women's bracket for us, if you would.
Well, in the East, you have UConn and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt coached by Shea Ralph, who's a UConn Husky, who had a fabulous career there. We scored 200 points against me in her career. That'll be an interesting 1-2 matchup if it gets that far. In the West, UCLA and LSU. Scott Corey's favorite coach, Kim Mulkey at LSU. Then in the South, South Carolina and Iowa. I don't think Iowa's going to get that far. I think that the 3 seed TCU is a little better than them, but we'll see. And then in the Midwest, Texas and Duke. Duke is on a tear. They won the ACC tournament. But I told you this last week, John. UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, and Texas are the 4 overwhelming choices to make the Final Four. I'll be shocked if another team sneaks in there.
And a good Kansas women's team, but maybe not quite good enough. They are under the category next 4 out, ranked 73 to 76 our Kansas Jayhawks. John Stewart, Big Ten has some good teams. They've got 12 teams with this women's bracket, but, my Hawkeyes from Iowa, they sure didn't look good in that final game. They just don't match up well against some teams. I'm afraid I might agree with Coach. They're going to go a ways, but not that far. What say you, Johnny?
Yeah, well, as I always say in the tournament, doesn't matter whether it's men's or women, it's all about the physical matchup.
Yeah.
And if you've got a favorable one, you got a shot. But I gotta go with Coach. I think possibly the 16 might be their ceiling. They might get one step further, in a favorable matchup, an upset on the other side of the bracket, whatever. But for me, at least a little bit, even though they've won a lot of ball games, they have a few turnovers to satisfy me. They get in games every once in a while where they get 17 or 18 turnovers, and you can't overcome that once you get in the NCAA. Well, maybe first round, but not after.
Well, we're just warming up because we're probably going to bring old Garsty and Scotty Boy back in and make this a fearsome foursome here with yours truly as your John McLaughlin moderator next week as we get deep into bracketology. Coach, you've got a wonderful podcast. Tell our folks about it. Remind them how they can find that.
Play-by-play. It will be anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart. My partner, Jerry Busone, the last week and a half has been working the Players Tournament in Ponte Vedra.
Oh,
so
wow.
He's down there today. Yeah, he's a volunteer, and
wow.
He loves golf, and so he's been kibitzing with different PGA pros. But we will be back on this coming Friday, play-by-play, wherever you get your podcast.
And, Coach, as I'm watching the snow almost flying horizontally across the fruited plain here where the giant tower beacon is here on South Princeton Road in Ottawa, you're probably in a desert without snow unless you go really, really high up in the mountains, right?
Well, it's a little windy today, but it'll get to 83.
Oh, man.
Don't trouble your heart.
Oh, man. Well, we got to call you next week.
We were 38 in Omaha this morning.
we got to make
I'm
sure.
Excited.
We got to make sure Coach is on next week just to stay warm. In the meantime, thanks Jim and Cindy Jandron, the good folks at Midwest Renewable Energy LLC. They'll keep us warm with American energy independence, as well as farm, ag, revenue vectors, as well as keeping our food supply safe and sound in the hands of Americans. More important than ever in these days of world events and the great work they do with liferunners.org. Get to that website, get your shirt, Run and Walk for Life, help these expectant mothers and their babies both before and after they are born. Stay tuned for more action tonight. We'll bring these characters back next week. In the meantime, check out the podcast, the Jacobsen Report here on KOFO.com. And mark your dials, the 27th, opening day, the Kansas City Royals here on 1220, 103.7 for all of us here on this fourth Sunday of Lent as we arc toward Easter in about another 20 days. Be safe, be smart, be good, be strong. Love Jesus Christ. Thank Him for all of His blessings. God bless America. God bless all of our men and women in harm's way in our armed forces. And until we meet again, God bless us, everyone. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Bye-bye.